This is our family. What's yours? Family. Welcome to the Cinefanatics. My name's Robert Adams.
I'm Chris Adams.
And this is our spoiler-free review for Fast X, or Fast 10, or whatever it is they were going to call this. I don't know. I think we're beyond that joke at this point.
Yeah.
So, right off the bat, this was a good movie.
Right off the bat. Surprisingly, yeah. 10th movie. So, I said this in the theater as soon as we got up. With this movie, they have achieved something that no other movie or franchise has done, and that is to make the 10th one better than the 9th one.
Yeah, the 9th movie, I still can't quite put my finger on it.
Not too many movies make it to 9 and 10 is the point. That's the point of what I was getting at there. I hope you all picked it up.
I can't quite put my finger on just what is lacking in Fast 9. The only thing I could possibly think of is the fact that they just like shoehorn in that Dom and Mia have like another brother. Like, okay,
it's just
this
kind
entire
of
time
out of nowhere, and it doesn't really make sense. Like they could have done like Dom's cousin or something, but to make it such a close relation to the family that just conspicuously was missing this entire time, it doesn't really make that much sense.
And it's weird if something doesn't make sense in a Fast and the Furious movie. It's weird, like, what actually takes you out of the movie when these are movies that are, like, made off of the backs of stunts that defy logic and reason and gravity and
physics.
And yeah, like, that's the thing that takes you out of the movie that just doesn't make it for you.
And that's the thing about the Fast and Furious movies. We have this slight little discussion while we're reviewing this one. It's that there's a certain reality that these movies hand you, that you buy into, that you believe, and if they do something that goes against the reality that they are presenting you, then yes, it would take you out of the movie. And that's kind of the problem with that, which is we've seen the close relationship between Dom and Mia, and while they did explain in the 9th one that there was a separation between Dom and his brother, it's still weird that you didn't mention him at all, which is, I think, the hole that you got in 9. That hole doesn't exist in this movie.
And this was something, so, like, I think, was it, you were talking about, like, Fate of the Furious, the 8th one. You didn't like it
felt like something was missing there, too.
This kid was just put in. Dom's kid was just an added, like, MacGuffin, so to speak. And, like, after Fast 8, you just have to deal with the fact that this kid is now a part of the story. Like, in the movie that they get introduced, sure, it seems weird and detached, but the movies afterwards, you just have to live with it. That's a part of this world. Yeah. Same thing with F9 is, I don't like Jacob being introduced, but in this movie, he's just a part of that world, and you just have to accept it.
I get, not to harp on it, I would have been fine if Jacob was like his cousin, but his brother, it's weird. It's almost nitpicky, but I think if you really think about it, what I'm presenting does make sense. Now, Fast
9 to 10.
Fast forward to 10. The franchise does close a lot of gaps, I think, in things that are missing. There is still one major thing that's missing, and I did feel it in this movie, and I think until they find a way around it, you're going to just keep missing it, and that is the Brian O'Connor of it all.
Yeah.
We know he exists. We know he's alive. Why do we barely talk about him? I understand the real-life reason why.
Yeah.
We all understand the real-life reason why, and it makes complete sense. But for the character to be retired and not really come up in the movie except for passing references, it feels a little bit odd. And again, I think we're getting all the bad stuff out of the way first, because there's a lot to go in on the good.
Yeah.
But just for me, if you're going to continue past Fast 7, which is, in my opinion, right now, thinking about where the franchise probably should have hung up the tires.
Yeah.
If you're going to move past that, then you're going to have to find a way to somehow bring Brian back into it, which gets into a whole conversation that I'm not having in this review, and that I don't really want to have in the comments below either.
When we bring like the podcast back, we'll elaborate on that. Especially, I want to piggyback off that idea, especially because the movie since, we've still gotten Jordana Brewster. Mia has still somehow found her way to be a part of the story again. And it's very weird, and they just
she can be present for family dinners, but Brian can't.
Yeah, or typically they shrug it off as in like, well, she just wanted to come hang out, and Brian's back home babysitting.
He's watching the kids.
Like, not that I don't want to say that there's like any kind of like gender assignment into what the roles of a family dynamic should be.
No, that's not the point.
Not at all. But the fact that like, why is she always the one that comes back? Obviously, we know real world implications.
Because Jordana Brewster's alive.
Yeah, obviously that, but it just doesn't make sense story-wise. Yeah. Like, Dom and Brian were effectively brothers at the time that Paul Walker passed away.
It's just getting to be too much to constantly just look at pictures, to play that song over and over again, to be like, yes, you didn't need to sing it, to play that song over and over again, and to be like, treat the character as if the character has died, when we know full and well the character himself is actually still alive. It's just weird.
That is something, and not a spoiler, but they do that in this movie as well, where there is an homage to Brian of some sorts, and it really does come off at some point where they're treating the character has died.
But he hasn't.
Yeah, that's really strange.
So,
that's probably the biggest not nitpicking. That's probably the biggest complaint of this movie.
Given the theming of the movie and what the bad guy's intentions are, you would think that Brian would come up more than he did. And sorry if you feel like that is a spoiler. Brian doesn't come up because we all know why.
Reasons.
You just feel like his name should pop up somewhere from the bad guy's lips.
Yeah.
That being said, the bad guy in this movie is wonderful. Let's talk about some good stuff.
Oh, Jason Momoa is a delight in this movie. He's definitely playing against type. He's not coming out here, my man, all macho and stuff. He's still a big dude.
He's being goofy.
He still has a presence. But man, he's coming out here like a pretty peacock.
Yeah, pretty much. He's
chest out and
he's showing those feathers, and he's goofing around while doing it. And the thing of it is that there's a phrase that people like to use, chewing the scenery. And I think you see that in his performance. He is chewing up every scene that he is in, and he is having a blast.
He's chewing on scenery about as much as Han or Tyrese are snacking on stuff throughout these movies.
Right. Jason Momoa in this role, you know that he was casted and he was like, oh, I'm going to have some fun here. We're going to have some fun here. And man, was he the right pick? Was he the right pick for this? Because he brings I would classify him as like a Joker level enthusiasm to the villain role. Like, go back and watch Dark Knight, like that Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker. There's even like multiple scenes where I felt like it was when Dom was facing him, where it felt like Batman facing down Joker, bopping him in the head, pushing him down, and him having the chaotic type thing.
Which, that's a great comparison, keeping in mind this is the first movie that we really effectively get introduced to Momoa's character Dante. Yeah. And they already have that Batman and Joker level.
It felt like it, yeah.
Relationship. Yeah, that says something about how they portrayed not just how Momoa plays his character, but the story and how they build up everything that happens in this movie.
Well, you've heard it spoken up before, and I think it really works for this movie too, in that is a lot of superhero films. Your superhero movie, the story is only as good as the villain is. If the villain's really good, the movie's really good. The story's really good.
Yeah, Malekith was terrible in Thor: The Dark World, so
you see it all the time. Thanos, everybody loves Thanos as a villain. Infinity War Endgame, fantastic.
Yeah.
So, again, Joker was a fantastic villain. Dark Knight, everybody holds up The Dark Knight as a great movie.
And it's primarily the Joker because of it. Yeah.
Yeah. In this situation, I would say yes, Momoa's character, who he is, where he comes from, his backstory, sure, yeah, okay, fine, I'll buy into it. We do fun little flashbacks and whatnot to try to catch us up to speed about where he was at and everything. Mm-hmm. But it was his performance. It was after those flashbacks. What is he doing in the here and now, and how is he approaching it? How is he a step ahead? What does his villainy look like? And while, yes, he is goofing around and acting silly the entire time, it really works for the intimidation side of his character. There's a lot there that's just like, man, I feel scared. I'm actually scared about what this guy can do, because he just does not care about anything anymore.
He does. So he does tend to lean more towards like Baron Zemo in Civil War, where he has this huge elaborate plan, and some of that plan does unfortunately rely on some coincidences actually happening.
He's just a step ahead. He's just thinking ahead.
But yeah, like it fits in this world. I know everyone was always going after Zemo about how insane his plot was in Civil War. It kind of fits in this world of the Fast and Furious. Just because everything is insane and coincidental anyways, it works.
Yeah. It's overall a great villain turn. Yes, we know that Fast X is supposed to be a part 1 and part 2, at least for now. It might end up being a part 3. Time will tell, I guess. But I can see why. We can all see why you would want to essentially break a part 1 and part 2 up with this villain.
Yeah, I will say, and I mentioned it like in our YouTube short, like the fresh out of the theater reaction. This does feel like Fast and the Furious Infinity War.
Yeah.
The way that this movie's put together, and this is both a good and a bad thing. The bad part about this, I will say, is that this movie does bounce around a ton of places. Like the whole group, the family, is scattered amongst different places in the world.
Much like the heroes in Infinity War.
Like Infinity War, and they're all like on their own like little puzzles that they have to piece together to eventually all come back and rendezvous together.
Yeah.
I'm still not saying it right. Whatever.
Rendezvous.
That thing. They have to solve all these little problems, and that's a lot like Infinity War. The people in Wakanda or up on Titan or whatever, they all have to come together and solve the ultimate problem of being attacked. That's what's happening in this as well, and it very much feels massive, and it's kind of hard to keep track of who's where and what are they doing and how are they doing
except for the big freaking words that pop up on the screen that tell you exactly what location of the world they're in.
Oh yeah. This was definitely directed like by the Russo brothers.
It wasn't, but yeah.
It wasn't, but yeah. It was directed by the guy who did Incredible Hulk.
Anyway, it is actually a really solid story, which is again amazing to me that you can get to the 10th movie after I'm kind of getting burnt out a little bit on 8 and 9. Like they kind of lost me a little bit after 7. Like again, 7 I feel like should have been the period on the franchise. 8 felt unnecessary at the time. 9 was like, okay, I guess we gotta start heading towards somewhere. This one brought me back in.
Yeah.
This one I'm like, okay, I am actually ready to see 11, and I guess if you're gonna do 12, maybe too. We'll see, but yeah, I am ready for the next movie. I'm ready to see the kind of the grand finale, so to speak.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff this movie does that I'm eager to see the next follow-up. Again, I really still think F9 is probably my least favorite of the entire franchise.
Yeah.
And that was funny because I remember I used to say for a while that it was Tokyo Drift. I was like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people did because it was so far removed from everything else. That movie, well, real quick, Tokyo Drift is the only movie that actually has anything to do specifically with car racing. Everything else had some kind of a heist or stealing or grouping together.
The backbone of that entire movie is really just street racing.
Yeah.
Proving yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, I actually like Tokyo Drift more than F9, but this movie, yeah, I agree. This movie brought me back to the franchise. This felt like the days of yore with the Fast and the Furious franchise, and I loved it.
Yeah, Tokyo Drift, it knew what it was. It stuck with it, and it was good for what it was.
And I feel like they've effectively allowed Tokyo Drift to be a part of the grander story. It fits in now that we've had so many movies removed from it.
The other thing, too, is that there's new supporting players in this. We got Brie Larson, we got Alan Ritchson, we've got Daniela Melchior. We got some new players, all of which have good spots in the movie, good moments in the movie. Charlize Theron's back. She's hanging out in there still. She's got an interesting role that I guess we'll see more of at some point, I'm sure, but
yeah, we still got Deckard Shaw still involved in this. Of course, then you got his mom, Queenie, that is always a joy in these movies.
Always there to pop up for a scene. Overall, everyone did a great job. I think definitely some shout-outs to both Brie Larson and Alan Ritchson because their characters have an important part of this movie too, as they Alan Ritchson plays kind of like a side antagonist to a degree at some point, being that he is the law going after Dom for some reason.
He's very like Hobbes.
Yeah, he's very Hobbes-ish in this movie.
Yeah.
And that in that regard, he does a fantastic job. I would like to see him do more stuff. So, he's great. Just overall, I think it's a nice tight package of a movie. There's some weird, corny moments here and there, but it's Fast and Furious if you're not expecting those moments at this point.
The stunts, I mean, how many times were we sitting in the theater and every time they do something, both of us are like, no. Just no.
Well, so this is the fun duality when we're watching this. You're sitting there going, no, and I'm sitting there going,
it's so stupid and ridiculous. Just
that's awesome. Look at it. There's no way, but that's great.
Yeah,
that's what you gotta love about these movies, though.
I do, and it's also a thing I hate about these movies because I'm like, no, you're dead, okay? There's no way you're living through that.
Or how did you not at least break a pinky?
Like something.
Anyway.
Mess your hair up at least.
Overall, a great entry into the Fast and Furious. Probably my favorite since the 7th one.
Yeah.
And easily in the upper echelon of the Fast movies for me so far. I really hope that they stick the landing on 11 or 11 and 12. Again, who knows? I really hope they stick the landing, though.
I really don't want a 12th.
We'll see. I hope they stick the landing, though. That's my point. Is we'll whenever we get there, I hope the landing is stuck. And you could really just overall make this an actual solid movie franchise as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed this one. This is, again, probably my favorite since the 7th one as well. So, yeah, I look forward to 11th. This movie leaves us on some good, like, cliffhangers, which obviously, again, comparing it to Infinity War.
And
sure.
And again, like, this movie is, the story, the way that they're going with the story definitely does reinforce the family theming.
I think this one's done it better than almost any of the other ones, other than, like, say, 7.
I think the more and more they go, the deeper we get into the actual like family feeling and theming of the entire franchise. So.
And that's something I would say I was worried about before is the idea of these movies keep harping about family. I'm like, this is getting kind of dead and old now. You just can't keep talking about family. This movie does a good job of...
It's starting to make sense.
Of it making sense. And it's no longer... It doesn't feel like a gimmick of these movies. Yeah. It actually feels family.
Overall, gosh, I can't even remember what I rated F9.
Well, I know I'm going to rate this one higher no matter what, so.
Yeah, here's the thing. Honestly, a solid Fast and Furious entry. I'm around the... Do we do this out of 10? I can't remember.
Out of 10, yes.
I would give this a solid probably 8.5 out of 10.
I was thinking of 8. Like, I'm going with 8. Like, I enjoyed it. It's fun. There's a couple of issues with them bouncing around a lot. If you have a hard time, like, keeping track of what's going on, that's going to mess with you a little. Also, slight detraction. I don't know if this is necessarily our theater, but the sound mixing was bad.
The sound mixing was not great for us.
I would say the sound mixing was probably on par with as bad as, like, Tenet was. There's a lot of times where
there's a joke made or there's an important piece of dialogue that we just missed.
Yes, it's someone like mumbles like one like little phrase, like someone will say something right at the very end and then the scene changes and you're like, wait, what did he just say?
I don't know what they said, but okay, we're moving on.
Yeah, like you have to shrug it off and I'm like, I can't especially if it's coming from either Vin Diesel or John Cena. Both of those two guys mumble a lot.
I mean, I miss some of Momoa stuff too. Either way, you definitely get some like I don't know if this was everyone. I don't know if this was just our theater or if it's just the copy that was sent out to all theaters, but the sound mixing was kind of rough. This is going to be one of those that I will definitely, for sure. I mean, besides the fact that it's a Fast and Furious movie and I will rewatch it, I'm going to watch it when it comes out again and probably, if I need to, put subtitles on in order to catch everything that's being said.
But yeah, that's why I'm not necessarily fully including that with my ranking and rating. Yeah. But we'll see. Maybe that gets improved. If that was something that is across the board, hopefully that gets approved before it gets launched for video on demand or home viewing.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for this review. What were your thoughts of Fast X? Let us know down below in the comments. While you're down there, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe and follow us here at The Cinefanatics. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Cinefanatics. You can follow me personally at Robert Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Also, youtube.com/@RobertAdamsMLP.
You can follow me at Chris Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, as well as twitch.tv/ChrisAdamsMLP.
Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching our videos. Hope you're watching them one video, 1 mile at a time, or however that phrase goes. We'll see you on the next mile, the next video. Goodbye.
I don't think our videos last for a full mile.